All right. Now, we've talked about Newton, and we've talked about two of the forces, which are gravity, and we've talked about friction. And I am going to talk about them all the time until you guys get so tired of me talking about them that you're going to know them yourself. But one of the things we're going to talk about today is something called aerodynamics. Now, a lot of you guys might know what aerodynamics is. Or we could also use the word streamlined. Now, I'll use another analogy of me and Mr. Murphy. Obviously, I'm a lot bigger than Mr. Murphy. I was probably bigger than Mr. Murphy when I was born, for crying out loud. He's not a big guy at all, right? So, with that being said, Mr. Murphy would be considered a streamlined individual. He's very thin. He can fit in tiny little spots. He can run fast. He can swim fast. He goes through the air a lot easier than me because he's got a lot less surface area on him, and I'm a lot bigger. So when I go and I run into the wind's gonna push me back a lot harder because I'm a lot bigger. I have a lot more space for the wind to hit me. So Mr. Murphy would be considered a streamlined human or an aerodynamic human. Mr. Allen, not so much. I wouldn't call myself streamlined. Now, if I was sitting beside Big Show or something, he's like 6'9", 400 and some pounds, I would be the small one. And I would be considered the streamlined. But that's not the case at the moment. So we're going to talk about vehicles that are streamlined, because I know that a lot of you guys can really identify with things like that, because a lot of you boys are into cars, and you girls aren't, but I don't really know anything about showing stuff like that, so we're going to use vehicles. All right, now this right here are two examples of streamlined, okay, and I'm going to try to explain this to you. On Earth, we have something that slows us down all the time, and we're really lucky. We have air resistance, okay? That stuff you're breathing in and out of your lungs, out of your nose and your mouth, it's called oxygen, and this air provides a lot of resistance to us. You know, if you go down the road and, you know, it's a really nice day and your parents are like, hey, let's roll down the windows, kids. And you throw your arm out, well, you can feel that wind resistance, right? You can see your shirt kind of flap in the wind. You can see the hair on your arms maybe blowing in the wind. You can do this kind of stuff with the air, and it does all kinds of cool things, you know, kind of like you're riding a roller coaster. Well, that's wind resistance. And you always encounter it when you get on something on Earth, because there's air everywhere, thank goodness. I mean, if there were places where there were no oxygen, we would probably end up not ever going to those places, because guess what? We would end up dying because we couldn't breathe. You guys even encounter this on everything you do every single day. You ride a bike down a hill. You can hear the wind go past your ears, right? Well, that's wind resistance. You're riding a skateboard, wind resistance. You can hear it. Everything you do is going to have some sort of wind resistance on you or slow you down. Now, there are ways around wind resistance. There's ways to lessen it. And you kind of got to think about me and Mr. Murphy. You know, if we were both running into the wind, who's going to have less wind on him? Well, obviously, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy's a lot smaller than me. Yes. Well, look, just listen, man. You can comment on this stuff in a minute. Now, listen. These are just two objects I picked because they are streamlined, okay? They are built to avoid resistance of wind, okay? And it's mainly just for one reason, and that is speed. These objects are designed to go fast. You know, if you went to somewhere and you were an engineer, or you were extremely rich like a multi-billionaire like Mr. Murphy, I don't know why he's teaching, because he's a multi-billionaire. I didn't know if you guys knew that. If I was as rich as him and I went to an engineer and said, hey man, I want you to make me the lowest car that has the least amount of wind resistance so I can go as fast as I possibly can. Well, an engineer would start designing something for Mr. Murphy so that whatever he built had the least amount of wind spaces for the wind to get in to stop him. So take, for instance, this motorcycle right here. This guy does not look like he's out for a Sunday stroll. He looks like he's racing, okay? And now look at all the objects on this motorcycle. He is crouched down, Okay, he's not sitting up enjoying the sunshine. He's crouched down. That windshield and his helmet. Basically, this bike is designed so that when the wind comes and hits this, hope this works, it's designed to go over him. Just like that, right? If he was standing, sitting straight up, his head would hit the wind and I would slow him down. So he's trying to achieve the fastest speed he possibly can. That's what those motorcycles are made for. They're made to go fast, right? There's other motorcycles that aren't made to go fast. There's all kinds of motorcycles that are made to do very many different things, but this one right here is built for speed because it's trying to stay out of the wind. Now, this right here, just like Caleb said, that is a Lamborghini. I've never been in a Lamborghini. Excuse me?
That's the old version, though.
The old version, the new version, they all look very similar because they are built for one thing. They are built to go fast. You don't get a Lamborghini to relax in because they're not comfortable. They're not meant for comfort. They're meant for speed. So when you get next to this car, it's going to be really, really low to the ground. And why is it going to be low to the ground? Well, it's trying to avoid air. Just like this right here, the wind is supposed to go over the top of this hood, right? And it's supposed to work, and I'm sure it does. I've never been in a Lamborghini before. It's not really my style. But they go 180 miles an hour or so, which is really fast. I don't have any need to go that fast, but some people like to go that fast. So that's why the car was made. It wasn't made to go out and haul your lawnmower. It was made for speed, man, okay? So these could be considered extremely streamlined, okay? Let's look at another. This right here, this is an Indy car, okay? And I don't know how many of you guys out there are IndyCar fans. I don't really watch too many races. Never did get really into all that stuff, but I know that some people really love it. Well, these guys are crazy when it comes to trying to avoid drag from the wind. Drag from the wind is slowing you down. So they do all these modifications to these cars to try to make them go as fast as they can. Because listen, if you drive one of these cars, everybody's got to have the same type of engine, right? But you can modify the car any way you want as long as you don't break the rules. So what do these guys do? Is they make the car as low as they can. So if you know how tall I am, I'd say those cars come up to about my waist. They're about probably 3.5 feet off the ground, extremely low to the ground. And then look at some of the dynamic little things they put around the corner. So look at this bumper. You see how close it is to the ground? I mean, it is like 1/2 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch from touching the ground. And this guy's going 200 miles an hour. So, I mean, you're talking about just millimeters from an accident, but they are trying to make it so the wind goes around it. And look at the sides right here. They know that if too much wind gets up underneath that thing, it's going to flip it. So they put all these protective layers on there so that they can go as fast as they can, and the wind will just go straight down the car. Obviously, this is a multi-million-dollar vehicle that is meant to go fast. It's meant to avoid drag from the wind, drag from the air, okay? Now,
That's a multi-million-dollar car.
I don't know, I would think that it's probably at least $500,000. At least.
Yeah,
I mean, at least. You know, those guys, they make a ton of money, put a lot of money into those cars, and you know, all these little things they're putting on there, some of this stuff's illegal. You know, they get kicked out of a race from time to time. I don't really watch too many races, but I've heard of people getting kicked out of races because they didn't do these things correctly. They kind of cheated. So, I mean, this, you know, you can either follow the rules or you cannot follow the rules, but these cars are meant to be designed to go fast. They're streamlined, they're aerodynamic. All right, now let's go to another thing. These are not aerodynamic. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this to you in a better way because I've got a guy on a motorcycle, and obviously he's got his wife on his back, on the back of it, or his girlfriend. I'm not sure. Maybe it's his sister. Who knows? Who cares? That's not the point. The point is that look at the size of that motorcycle, and look at how those people are riding. And then let's go back up here and let's look at how this guy's riding. Can you see a difference? You can see a difference in their clothing. You can see a difference in the way their body is adjusted. And you can also tell that this guy right here doesn't have anybody on the back of him because all that added weight would slow him down. But this fella right here, he might be going on a ride with his wife, going to the grocery store. Look, it's even got bags on the side of it. This was not designed to go fast. This was designed for comfort. This was designed for pleasure, like a big, big truck. You don't go out and try to go 200 miles an hour in something like that. It's not designed to do that. So there are reasons why engineers do things they do. You know, there's a lot of things that can go correct with you having something streamlined. If you're avoiding all this drag from the wind, well, you're going to save a lot of money with gas. You're not going to be getting slowed down as much. If you have something like this, well, you're probably going to spend a little bit more gas, but you're also going to be going slower, which is also going to save you gas. So it kind of equals out at the end, I would think. But that's streamline and aerodynamic things. Let me see if I might have one more thing. One of the best streamlined aerodynamic things there is a rocket. I mean, think about it. If you want to go 12,000 miles an hour, don't you want to look kind of like a bullet? I mean, think about it. This thing looks very similar to a bullet or a needle. It cuts through the air a lot easier. That's why they're made like that, because they've got to go about 12 to 13,000 miles an hour to get through the atmosphere to even get to space. So people that design rockets, they design them so that they can go fast. They don't design them so that they can go slower so they can carry more stuff. They'll just make more trips, right? Now, here's something. This is a huge, huge object, right? And this could be considered aerodynamic because it flies. Now, is it streamlined? It's kind of streamlined. Look at the lines on it. It looks pretty good to me, but it is not a fighter jet. Fighter jets are more streamlined. They're given more power. They're meant to go faster because they know they're going to have to fight other planes more than likely in the air. This thing right here, it's not built to fight other planes. It's not built to drop bombs. It's built to carry stuff. Very much like this big truck back here. These trucks, they're not meant to go fast. They're meant to carry things, okay? So when we start getting into aerodynamic and streamlined objects, the number one thing they always want to avoid is this word right here, drag. All right, you're going to hear me say that word a lot. In fact, it's one of the 4 forces of flight. In fact, you guys go through drag every day. If you go walking around the block, you're encountering drag. If you get on your bicycle and drive down and ride down the street, you're encountering drag. When you get into your parents' car and you're going down the road, you're encountering drag because drag is everywhere there is air. Now, obviously, if all of us got into a spaceship, a streamlined spaceship, and we all went to space, that's the one place where we wouldn't really have to worry about forces because there is no drag in space because there is no air. There's also no friction and there's also no gravity. So there are ways to avoid these forces, but you got to be super rich to be able to get to space. So I don't want to go to space. I like staying right here on the ground myself. But you always got to encounter these forces, and sometimes these forces aren't very kind to you, especially when you were a little baby. Think about when you started learning how to walk and crawl. How many times you popped your head on the ground or hit your head on something because you lost your balance. Gravity's real. Very real, and there's actually people out there that don't believe that gravity is real. I don't know any of them, but I've heard of these people that don't think gravity's real, and there are also people that think that the earth is flat. So, you know, you can believe what you want to believe. That's a great thing about living in America, but gravity is very real, and the earth is round. For all intents and purposes, I believe that that is correct. Now, are there any questions? Because I've thrown a lot at you today. And, you know, that's kind of what I do is I'm going to throw a bunch at you and then go back and go over it again slower. So is there anything you guys got any questions about? I know nobody in my room's got any questions. They're all sleeping. Anybody?
Well, we've lost quite a few people throughout the
Yeah, I noticed.
process.
Well, hey, man, I'm boring, you know.
No, I think we just got to set a few more expectations. I created a document that we'll go over with them on Monday.
Okay, well, look,
I
guys.
watched a lot of them to put on their video today.
Well, look, guys, I've got a Google form for you, and listen, it's only 5 questions. It should be pretty easy for you. It should be on this video, and if it's not on the video, then I went over it with the questions. So, listen, if you're really having a hard time with some of these questions, and I totally understand this stuff is not something you learn all the time, then Google it. Google it. Just type it in, type the question in, and see what they say. And listen, you can't do that on the test, obviously, but there is a little bit, I think, that you gain by looking it up yourself. Much rather you look it up on Google than just sit there and click something. Because at least if you go and you take the time to look it up, you're going to get the answer, and then maybe it'll get into your head a little bit easier than rather you just clicking something because you like the letter C, you click the letter C, which is what some of y'all do. It seems like, because some of those grades, I go over everything and y'all still are getting 40s. I don't understand it. So you just need to take your time. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. And I will talk. Yes?
I have a question. Marion Porter wants to know, the scenario with the motorcycle.
Yeah?
If the lady on the back is not on the motorcycle, would it be able to go as fast as what, bud?
No.
Would it be able to go as fast as the other motorcycle?
Well, maybe. I don't
Nope.
really know much about motors. I mean, I know a little bit. I know how to ride them. That's about it. But I don't know much about them. Maybe if they were going completely straight, if it was a straight road, possibly. But, and the only reason that is because on this motorcycle right here, it's got an, please mute yourself.
A+.
Hey, Caleb,
Yes.
you got to mute yourself, man.
Oh,
That
thank you.
engine is twice as big as on that other motorcycle, Porter. So it's got more power, but it's also got more weight to it. I mean, look at all this extra stuff it's got on. The tires are bigger, the windshield's bigger, the gas tank's bigger, those things on the back are bigger, the rider's bigger. There's a lot of factors that go into to saying which one would go faster. But I know that the one right here, hold on, wrong mouse. This one right here, Porter, at the top, it's a lot more maneuverable. So like if they were going through curvy roads, this guy would be able to lay this motorcycle down and kind of get really low. If that guy doing this motorcycle tried to lay it down and try to go fast, he would probably end up on the ground. And it's just a design thing. It's one of those engineering things. This thing is made to carry a lot of people. And Porter, that's why it's got a bigger engine, is because Harley Davidson, who made this motorcycle, knows that it's made for more or less 2 people. Okay, so, you could ride it on one person's fine. It will go fast. All motorcycles are fast, but the other one is built more for speed, more for taking corners. That's a really good question, though. But yeah, on a straightaway, I don't know. It would probably depend on who was driving the motorcycle. It really would. Because both of them are very capable. I've actually had one of these before, and as fast as I went on was like 70, and it could have gone probably twice as fast as that. And I never did do it because, I don't want to fall on the pavement, because that, term gravity, when you hit the pavement, it doesn't feel good, right? And that's one of the bad things about growing up as a kid, is that you get really used to seeing that ground a lot. Because of gravity. It's unfortunate. And think about it. If you fall off your bike and you're going down the road and you scrape your knee, well, that's friction. If it weren't for friction, then your knee would have never gotten skinned up, because your knee is rubbing on that pavement and it's making a strawberry come up. So, all these forces are explainable, and we can relate them to a lot of things in our daily lives. In fact, pretty much everything, these forces. So, Newton, it's the reason why he's considered the greatest scientist ever, is because these laws cannot be disproven. They are proven, and really, 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 really smart people have tried to disprove them, and they can't. So, maybe one day, but who knows? It's been 320 years, and nobody's been able to disprove them. That's pretty remarkable. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll have your Google Doc up in just a minute. It's a Google form, actually. So just give me a couple of minutes, all right? Y'all have a good one.
Bye.
All right, people.